Hi guys, welcome back to episode 6 of the Goss. Today's question is, how important do you think personal brands are? And I think given that it's the five of us, it's going to be an interesting discussion to see what everyone's take is. I also mean like personal brands in terms of like entrepreneurship and starting your own business and on that track. But yeah.
Wait, I need clarification on this question. What do you mean by how important is personal brand? Because some people might not believe in this, right? So are you saying how impactful it has been for us? What's the question?
Yes, I would
I,
say that how important is it to have a good personal brand in order to
Mm,
have like launch your own business and things like that?
okay.
Not necessarily just in terms of like social presence, but also just like the things that we've done in life that builds like either our CVs, because like all of us come from good universities, which adds on to our personal brand. So like even that sense, like how important is it to have those things on your like either LinkedIn profile or on your CV, or like having even a social media presence, like how important is all of that in order to do well in business in this day and age in the 21st century in 2021?
Oh God, okay. I'll go. Okay, so that's the thing. I'm not sure I understand what personal brand is, right? That's why I was asking the question. I think that there are different facets to personal brand. As you said, it can be based on education, so formal stuff that you've acquired, whether there are awards, there are education, your job, and all of that that you can put on a CV. And then there's also then the non-official part where you can have a big following or you can have a social media presence and all of that. So I think your personal brand is probably made of different parts of your life. And I think it is quite important because it has helped me a lot. For example, I think a very easy example is the fact that when I started the podcast, I was a lot smaller. I had 400 maybe followers on Instagram. And then reaching out to people was something I was scared to do. But now that I am on about 8K on Instagram, flex, it's a lot easier to
don't
reach
don't
out
don't
to
flex out like
people.
that, Shane. Don't flex out like that.
You can just reach out to people. So I've actually reached out to people who are a lot bigger than me on Instagram, and you don't feel that you are reaching too far. And I get responses from people as well, so it's good because it gives you credibility when you're trying to reach out, and they immediately know who you are and what you're about, and that okay, yeah, this person is doing something right. And for me, that's why I think a personal brand is useful, because immediately people know what you're doing and what you're about, and that helps make things move faster. I think that's all I say.
I'm gonna build on that with an example.
Okay.
So I
I
think
feel like we're in therapy. This is how you do it in therapy. I build on that.
but yeah, no, so just in terms of, I think it's very important, but it's not the end all. And I'll give you an example. So, for example, if you guys know Sir Martin Sorrell, he was the ex CEO of WPP, which is the biggest advertising and PR agency in the world. And basically, he like when he quit or was asked to leave or whatever, he came up with like his new company and everything. And I think their first round of funding was 500 million pounds. That's the first round of funding that he
Yeah.
got for his new company, S4 Capital. And I think, I mean, yeah, like when you're the ex CEO of a company that does, I think, 20 billion pounds in revenue per year. Um, so yeah, like
These are
that's his
small
personal brand,
numbers.
right? He
I'm
was just
sorry.
yeah,
These are
definitely small
extremely
numbers.
small
100%.
numbers. Come on.
Reshape
Ah,
is gonna hit the number by like next
who's
year
this
for
guy?
sure.
Who does he need someone else to run his company? 20 billion? Are you kidding me? That's it? Couldn't you do better?
But yeah, so I think it is very important. But again, as I said initially, it's not the end all because you can build a really successful company with a good idea and like no starting personal brand, but I think eventually it does become important again, right? Like as you're building the company, if it's getting enough traction, and to actually bring that example to life, if anyone has seen Mark Zuckerberg's recent sort of foray back into building his own image, he said that like his image on social media has been very robotic. That's what he calls it. And he wants to be more communicative and like take life less seriously online. And that's again about his personal brand, right? Like after so many years of Facebook, he's realized that like him and Facebook, their names are like way too synonymous for him to not build his personal brand. And I feel like I can keep giving examples of this, like Elon Musk, Tesla. Like there's just too many. And yeah, I think my take on it is it's important. If you have it from the beginning, it's a head start. But if not, it does become important later on as well.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point on sort of like Elon Musk and Tesla and things like that, and how they spend supposedly virtually nothing on marketing, right? So how the funnel reverses, right? So when you look at Elon Musk towards Tesla, Bill Gates towards Microsoft, and like, all of these people seem to have a greater following on social media than their company itself. And in some way, it acts like a funnel for new customers and new followers and things like that for them. And it also means that they don't have to go ham on marketing and spend a lot of money on that, which a lot of big companies fail to do, and they have to have huge budgets on that front, which is why companies like WPP, like you mentioned, have crazy revenues as well. So on my personal take on the personal brand situation, so I think when you're an entrepreneur, especially for me coming straight out of university, jumping into this thing, there are few things that give me credibility as opposed to people that have been in industry for years, right? So number one would be LSE. I would say, like John, we were saying earlier, like your universities are part of your personal brand. And then what else is there that gives me credibility? The Forbes under 30 scholar thing seems to be a big deal. But then I personally do not think that, the people in the community are always, the best of the best or anything. I believe there's people well outside of that community that are way better, and but it just unlocks some doors for you, like she was saying earlier, having that sort of brand association, like like she has Oxford and Cambridge on hers, which helped her sort of start talking about what it's like being at those universities, what it's like doing a PhD in that. Similarly, I think increasingly my focus will be to sort of talk about how an experience at an education at LSE has led to a lot of different entrepreneurial opportunities, how it's unlocked those. And the reason I'm doing things like building in public and like doing YouTube and Instagram, at least to the best of my bandwidth right now, is just so that people know what I'm about, the way I think, the way I operate, so that when they come across my profile, it's not just a bunch of brand names, but rather what I'm about as a person, so that when they want to either invest in me or follow my company's journey or whatever it is, they are well aware who I am. So I think that's sort of the way I look at personal brand. I think it's extremely, extremely important, especially if you don't have things like money and all of that going your way. Then this is the stuff that you leverage. You have to have either community or money. It's one of those things. So yeah, that's my take.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like, wait, did you want to go first?
No, go.
Yeah, so like, I mean, just to know what Joe said, like, I think like one key thing is that information is so much more easily accessible than before. Like the consumer awareness part, like, where consumers can find anything about you, and like a lot of information about your private life is out in the open. So in that case, like, personal branding, holding good image, especially when you go in the entrepreneurship route, like, making sure that you haven't done any stupid shit and it's not out in public, and you have like good reputation behind you, and you just have good social image in the eye of the public. I think that's really important when it comes to entrepreneurship, and in general, because of how easily accessible information is, personal brand has become a lot more significant. So
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely agree with like everything that you have said. And I think the one thing that came across from every single person was credibility, right? Like that's the most important thing in terms of building a personal brand. You want to build credibility towards your consumers, your investors, your like any stakeholder that there is, even like your employees. So like that's the main aspect of it is credibility. And if it's like, so what my take on personal brands, so like if I would like to split it into I guess like two parts that we initially spoke about, whether it was something that's just like things that you've achieved, and like the other would be like social presence. I think the things that you achieved are like your education and like your career path and like things like that, and like how you've built yourself as a person. I think that's extremely important when it comes to business. Like even your mindset and things like that can be reflected in your personal brand and how you reflect that in like a more public facing role. But I think that like that is important in business, and I think that any entrepreneur that wants to do well and wants to set up a successful business needs to have some sort of backing, and the word is like literally credibility. But I think when it comes to like social media presence, there's like two things in that. And I think for like what I've understood of like that entire industry per se is that like I think Anuj mentioned this in terms of that if you have a great idea, you can build a great business. But I think that when it comes to like social media and things like that, if you have a following, you don't necessarily need to have a great idea, but you can still build a business. So I think that's like the head start you get with like a personal brand when it comes to like social media. Is just that you get that head start in like the wider community and people trust you, so you don't necessarily need to build that credibility again. But not to say that like someone that doesn't have a social media presence cannot build a good enough business. It's just that it's going to be harder, and the fact that then like the idea is really important because that's what they're trusting, not the person. So I think like that's like the difference when it comes to like social media and like a presence there. But when it comes to like things like university, I think it plays a really important part and does influence the way um people like I guess like like the opportunities given to you, like however you don't want it to be that, like you don't want that discrimination in terms of university. I think personally that it does exist. I feel like the fact that we've come from either Oxbridge or LSE has given us a head start in many other things and avenues in like ReShape's life, forget anything personal, because they backed us, right? Like if you see like in our initial months, like everyone like spoke, and that like builds credibility and things like that. So I think that all of that makes a huge difference when it comes to launching a business. And for I think you build your company and that influences your personal brand, but now it's like your personal brand influences the building of your company to a certain extent. So like
And like,
that switch.
yeah, and I think also one thing that's super underrated is like, whenever you're building a business, you have to do like UX research and sort of conduct that initial first layer thing to see whether what you're building is actually needed and get some greater understanding of the problem. And how simple is it for me to like take out my phone right now, take a picture of this and post something, like ask a question and put two options, and then do like 10 of those, I can get like at least 100 responses plus on each. That's the most seamless thing to do. Otherwise, you have to send like type forms and things like that. But imagine if you had like a huge following, you can get such a large sample size of people from all sorts of ages. Like I have everyone from my mom and her friends to people in high school who look up to me or whatever that are following me, right? Like, so it's such a like, yeah, of course they look up to me. Come on, guys. Good. But anyways, like, it's a broad range, and I think that is hugely beneficial, and it provides like a good first layer kind of user research kind of a piece as well. So there are many tools like that where you can leverage your audience for greater understanding of the problem you're tackling.
But
And
yeah,
like it also depends on the industry, right? Like when you're more D2C and well, not even
Exactly.
D2C, just like more consumer facing overall,
Yeah.
you're gonna be more like it's gonna be more important to have a personal brand. But if you're, let's say, a supply chain manager or like logistics manager, back end, fully back end, um, I think it's like not as important
Yeah.
as yet.
yeah, no, I
Good
think
question.
so yeah, I think like overall the most important thing is credibility in my opinion, like when you build a company, and I guess that's what we're getting at. And if you heard
Yeah.
each answer, like that's what we said was the most important. So like I don't think it's important to have like a strong personal brand across every platform and everything in life, but it's just important to like build as a person and make sure that
It's
people
definitely like a good bonus, like a good
Yeah.
addition to your pro.
Yeah.
100%.
It's just a boost, right? You get a boost.
A boost. Definitely a good boost.
So yeah, that was episode 6. Thank you guys. See y'all. Bye.
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 We have two influencers in the video here. The biggest one over here obviously is Sheen. So Sheen, do you want to go first?
Industries and their brand, along with Y Combinator's brand, when associated, is just like
But
on
that's
an like
a tricky one.
That's B2B in a very networking way.
Yeah.
Like that's still different.
yeah. This is a new category, everyone. B2B in a networking way.
Networking way.
Dun, 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 dun.
That was a whole workout. I have
Yeah, he's
sweat in my
he's
hands.
like flexing his biceps like this.
Yeah, he's like,
Oh my
how should I
god.
get it in?
Hey guys, I'm gonna put my video up and I'm gonna listen to you guys. So.
Leave your video on now. I want to see your face.